Hello there, amazing person. Today I want to talk to you about how I manifested the house that I'm living in right now. I really wanted to make this video a lot earlier, but I was really hesitant because I thought maybe you're going to think that I'm not, that I'm not the right person to talk about manifesting, but come to think of it, I'm watching a lot of videos about manifesting. I kind of am an expert because I actually manifested this home and I have read so much about manifesting. I have learned so much about the topic. I have seen so many videos. I kind of know all of the pros and the cons, and I think I'm ready to tell you how I feel about the topic. So, without further ado, let me tell you about how I manifested this home that I'm living in right now. So, when I was a bit younger than I am today, I was also a lot greener. I kind of lived a flat life. I'm so sorry if I'm offending anybody who's living the life that I was living back then, but I call it a flat life. I didn't do anything with my life. Of course, I went to university. I was studying full time. I had my son at the time. He was just a toddler, and I had bought our first home together, me and my boyfriend. So I did do a lot of things, but things that people expect of you when you're an adult. You get a house, you get a car, you get a kid, you get a job, you finish your university degree, stuff like that. But I wasn't enriching my life in any way. I went on vacations, I went partying, stuff like that. But I didn't read anything, I didn't learn anything besides university subjects. And honestly, I was doing commercial economics. I did not have a link with the study. I just picked a study and this seemed doable, so I just went with it. And it was like that for a lot of things in my life because it was the way you were supposed to live your life. And then something really, really impacted my life. We broke up. My boyfriend and I broke up. And I'm not really going into detail, but it came to the point where he told me, you can stay in the house or you can go and you can take the kid with you. So naturally, I became homeless, well, semi-homeless, because my mom would never let me sleep in the streets, and especially not with my son. My son was not even 2 years old at the time. So I went to live with my mom. And you and I know that once you had a taste of living your own life, doing everything the way you want it, going back to your parents' house is challenging because you have to do everything the way your mom wants things to happen. And I was also living in a very small room with my son and all of my stuff. So my head was really clouded. And apart from living in that small room, I also had a lawsuit against me because my ex wanted full custody, and I had taken him to court because he didn't want to pay child support, not 1 cent, and he didn't want to leave the house. And the house was in both of our names, so I really needed him out of the house in order to sell the house and get on with my life. But he refused, so we had to go to court. And all of these court dates were pretty far apart from each other. I had to go to the people who were assessing me to see if I'm a fit mom, stuff like that. It took over 2 years. 2 years of my life gone with these things that I didn't choose to happen to me. And I just felt so bitter. I felt so negative. I was already living a flatline life. There was nothing really happening in my life. I just went on vacations and parties and doing my duties. And when this happened, I went through stuff that I didn't choose to go through. So I became very bitter and negative. And a lot of people didn't realize how I felt because I was just doing what I was supposed to be doing. I was just going to work, and I called and met up with some friends, but that was it. I quit school. I couldn't concentrate at all. So I don't have my university degree, and I'm not going back to school too because I was doing commercial economics and I never loved the study. I never loved anything about it. I just did it. So quitting school was actually a blessing in disguise, as so many things, but we'll get to that. But yeah, I was surviving. I wasn't living. And I regret that period of time, that it took me so long to realize where I was, because my son kind of had half of his mom. Things made me feel so negative about my life and about basically everything that I was doing. And he deserved so much better. He needed so much more at the time. And I didn't see it as horrible. I just saw it as my new reality. And at a certain moment, I'm not really sure, I think after a year, my sister and I, we moved into an apartment building that was almost abandoned, and they gave out really cheap leases. If you signed in on the lease that you were going to leave the apartment building as soon as they would start with demolition. So it was a really nasty building, but at least we had our privacy and at least we had our own space. And I could, see more clearly what I was supposed to do with the rest of my life. Because when living at my mom and having everything just boxed up in my head, I did not see a direction. Even the lawsuits were not going anywhere. I was just working and living. I was just surviving, not really living. So after we got that abandoned building house, started looking at houses, and the corporations that rent out houses here in the Netherlands, you have to be registered with them for at least 10 years before you can get a house. Sure, you can rent a house just from a regular person, but that's going to cost you like 2,000 euros, and I didn't have that money at all. I was just making ends meet. So I would have to rent a house from a corporation. That would be like 400 euros or something. But I wasn't registered for that long of a time. There's a long waiting list of 10 years. So they would not rent me a house. So the only option for me was to buy a house. And I started looking into getting a new mortgage. And that's when I found out that my ex was not paying any bills. He was living in our house, rent-free, mortgage-free. He did not pay any bills. And I had no access to the house because he was living there. And all of the bills, everything that came, every bill that came went to that house. I had no access to the mailbox. And I didn't see anything of I didn't know about all of these bills that were piling up. So when I went to ask for a mortgage, the banks told me, you have these registrations of debts that for at least 5 years, I think, after you're done paying those debts. And that's when I kind of freaked out. I had a total of tens of thousands of euros in debts that were in my name because almost all of the contracts were in my name. I made more money than he did, and I was more responsible. I took care of the bills when we lived together, And when I left, he just did not bother with anything. So I was resentful, I was hurt, and I hated him for the things that he put me through and the things that he put my son through. I did not see anything positive happening ever again in my life. I was at rock bottom. I can honestly say that. And I kind of figured out at that point, either you give up or you let everything go. And when I say give up, I mean it in worst case scenario. There's nothing to live for, but I had my beautiful son, and that gave me plenty to live for, so I chose to let everything go. And that's the moment that everything changed in my life. Shifted from negative and everything bad to positive and focusing on everything that is good. And that's exactly what manifesting is all about. You just focus on everything positive, you let go of everything negative, and you try to work out stuff, you forgive people. When I was in a negative mindset, I really wanted a house. I wanted my money, I wanted to win the lawsuits and everything, but there were no feelings behind it because all of the feelings behind it were negative. So negative and neutral, that's just not going to get you anywhere. When I shifted my energy to positive, I wanted a home, and I wanted to provide for my family, my little family, me and my son. And that's the moment where everything just changed. I walked my son to school every day, and they were building apartments in this apartment building where I'm sitting right now. I didn't think anything about it. Remember that I had no money at all, so I thought I could not possibly buy a house. But then one day they started painting these apartments, and the outside of the building is pink. And pink is my favorite color. So I looked at this building, I looked at this particular apartment. It's on the corner of the building, and I said, I want to live there. And that's when I started focusing all of my positive energy on getting this home and just providing for my family by living in this house without any problems. All I could think of is, how am I going to make this home my home? How am I going to make it beautiful? How am I going to enjoy this new chapter in my life? And that's what I held on to, and that's actually the mindset that I grew into. It's not like I manifested, I want a house, and I got a house. I had to make a plan, I had to make it work, I had to do the work, and then I got what I wanted. But you have to realize that my situation was bottomless. There was no possible way that I could have made this happen if I hadn't switched my mindset from negative to positive, work out a plan, and get it done. And that's I was trying to sell my house, and the house wouldn't sell. The house sold, my old home. He got out of the house, it was sold, there was enough money left to pay off almost all of the debts. I called all of the people that I owed money. I didn't even owe them money, but the debts were my name. So I called all of them, and they told me, I'm going to have your name removed out of the registry as long as you make the payments. So I paid everything off with the money from the house that I sold, and the only thing left was alimony. I did not get a cent, but I didn't care about it. I would rather have everything that I have right now than the monthly payments that were just enough to cover probably food to bring to school and nothing more than that. It trumps a family with a mother and father. if you can provide your kid with a loving home without any problems. So I did that. And I really believe that it's all because I started this positive mindset. I got this home. I went to the bank. They told me I couldn't get a mortgage because I didn't have a contract at the place that I worked. So I went to the people that I worked and I told them I want to buy a home, but I don't have a contract. Are you willing to give me a contract so that I can buy my home? And they did. I did worse things since then, but at that moment, that was the boldest thing that I did in my life. Just ask them for a contract because I wanted to buy a home. So I shifted my energy from negative to positive, and everything came true without any problems. But manifesting is definitely not just saying that you want a large sum of money or a home or a car, and then you're just going to like sit and say, I want it to happen, I want it to happen, and then it's going to happen. You have to shift your mindset to 100% positive. You have to give, you have to forgive people, and you have to give to people, because the more you give, the more you will receive. And I'm not just talking about money, I'm talking about energy, I'm talking about positivity. Just be a positive person and you'll see that positive things will come your way. You really want something, just focus on it. See yourself, because I did not just want this house. I sat in front of the house. I went inside of this house when it was empty, just to feel me living here. And it made all the difference. I was planning, I was mapping out, I'm going to use these curtains, I'm going to put the bed here, I'm going to do this on the balcony. I saw everything happening. And because it became my reality, it happened. It literally became my reality. And it has worked for me. I can honestly say I had no prospects of buying a home, buying this home, and I made it happen through manifesting. And I really want to show you how I did it and the things that I have learned, because it's all positive and it can't go wrong if you try it this way. So stay tuned for the rest of the series about manifesting and everything around it. And thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you soon. Bye.